The Chicago Bears just made the right move at the trade deadline. We've been waiting for a huge trade deadline deal, and this is on election day. Happy election day. I hope that you voted. It's our duty. But we might have to settle for this deal instead. And the Bears just traded away running back Khalil Herbert to the Cincinnati Bengals for a 2025 seventh round pick. And for the Bears, this move has been telegraphed for quite some time. I've spent several shows on here talking about it on this channel. He's been a healthy scratch for the last few weeks, so this is totally telegraphed. No surprise here. And if you look at Herbert as a player, he's been a nice player here. He was drafted in the 6th round, I believe, out of Virginia Tech, right? He greatly outperformed his draft stock. And we're talking about to the tune of 1,342 yards, 6 scores over his last 2 years. And the thing about Khalil Herbert, he's a good back, but he excels running out of an outside zone scheme. What Waldron's running, and we can talk about his lack of effectiveness in game planning, this scheme. We can talk about that this week, but Waldron primarily runs an inside zone configuration. So we're looking at Roschon Johnson as being a good player, but he just doesn't fit the scheme. And he's also been bypassed by Roschon Johnson and newly acquired DeAndre Swift. We can kind of talk about what could have been. There were rumors that the Minnesota Vikings were trying to get him from us, and it looked like a 5th or 6th round compensation. I'm not sure why that didn't happen. Perhaps it had something to do with the Bears not wanting to help out a division rival. And before these last 2 losses, the Bears were looking at a completely different spot as a team and as far as aspirations. That's changed. In a 7th rounder, it's not a ton of compensation. I get it. I think it's light. But this is what kind of compensation you get for a player that wasn't going to be re-signed. So this trade, it kind of signals something that we should have already known. And I think this was the right move. The team is going to do the right thing with this situation that we find ourselves in. I think it'd be absolutely silly to make a huge move at the deadline this year. I mean, we made a big swing for Montez Sweat last year, a huge piece, led to the defense coming into its own big time. But I think we've gotten just a little too carried away with the preseason hype. I'm guilty of it as well. Guilty. But if we look at this objectively, we're in the 3rd year of a full teardown and rebuild. GM Ryan Poles, he is still a fantastic general manager. We have a completed defense. Yes, a franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams, a number 1 receiver in DJ Moore. And we're going to talk about this nonsense lately throughout the week with DJ Moore and other players and with our head coach. I'm just not going to do it today. But the wrong thing that could have been done here, try to make a big swing to get Coach Flus out of the hot seat. Thanks for not doing that. Wrong motivation. Deal even more players to get more draft picks, right? But I kind of like where we're at. Nate Davis, it's been tough with him, but we still might need him as a reinforcement to make sure that our franchise quarterback doesn't get decapitated at some point this season. And we have a lot to be positive about. In the turmoil, I will cover that late in the week. And then we're also looking at Velus Jones. If you guys watch Hard Knocks, it was a possibility that we could have gotten maybe a 4th rounder for him. I wish that we could tell the future, and I don't fault the coaching staff for this. I mean, this is when he was being converted to a running back. He was starting to show some pop. He just ended up showing who he was with the fumbling issues on the kickoff return team. I don't know. It is what it is, but I'm not all about going back and analyzing every single detail and saying coulda, woulda, shoulda. I want to be more of a news source here. And we've got a lot to be positive about, and I'm going to cover the turmoil from a newsworthy basis. So let's look at the positive. We've got Rome Odunze. He was the bright spot this last week with another game over 100 yards. This guy runs great routes. He's definitely a playmaker. He seems absolutely unfazed by the circumstances of the season, by adversity. I wish DJ Moore was doing the same. He's actually our leading wide receiver as well with 391 yards. And if we look at the salary cap, it's in absolutely great shape, one of the best in the league. And it's time to build on that. And the team, if you look at it objectively, post-hype, we're at 500 right now. We've got a winnable game against New England. Everyone just pump the breaks. And granted, we had a really exciting draft season. We had the national spotlight on us every single time. Hard Knocks, it really turned up the temperature. But if we are thinking with our minds instead of our hearts, right? We're absolutely starved for a winner. I'm starved for a winner. But we knew we would not be winning the Super Bowl this year, not even close to that. And this is the league where opinions and reactions are week to week to week, sometimes day to day, huge highs followed by judgmental lows. If we look at the facts, we had a teardown 2 years ago, a 7-win season last year. Now we sit at 4-4, and that's regardless of how it happens. So I'm so glad for one, we're not spending next year's draft capital on a reactionary big splash move. We've got 8 picks in the upcoming draft following the Herbert trade, highlighted by our own first, Carolina's second, which is almost another first by how things are going, our own second as well. And if you look at the head coach, granted, he has made a ton of mistakes. I'm not going to spend a ton of time calling for his head right now, though, to get clicks. That's what everybody else is doing. But if you look at what the Bears actually do, that kind of talk is fruitless because the Bears have never fired a head coach midseason. And they aren't going to start now unless it comes straight from the McCaskies. The team is still on the upswing. We just might have the wrong head coach. The GM is fantastic in polls. I still believe that in him. But with the head coach, let's just see this play out. See if Flus can stabilize the locker room, get everyone on board. If you look at the injuries, those are mounting, both tackles out, issues at guard, tough schedule coming up. But what if something happens here? What if we still win 9 or 10 games? I mean, it's altogether possible still. Do we still fire him? My heart says yes, but I'm just going to pose that question. Don't kill me in the comments. Or better yet, if you want to kill me in the comments, go ahead. But it's never a good idea to fire a coaching staff following year one of a rookie quarterback's career. I mean, I was reading a story today going through all the number one quarterbacks, all the top 5 quarterback picks over the last 20 years and looking at their success rate after you fire the head coach, after you fire the coaching staff after year one. It is absolutely terrible. The track record is awful. But here's the thing. Our offensive line is awful. It's hurt to boot. And if you kind of think about if we had improved offensive line play, let's say Shane Waldron hasn't been as bad of a play caller as we think he has been. Maybe he's dealing with an overmatched offensive line. If you think about it, if we had a rebuilt, if we had a good offensive line, does that automatically mean that Shane Waldron is a better play caller? Just kind of food for thought. I like starting a conversation there, but I don't know. Let's just move on. So let's look at next year. We've got a ton of draft capital to build this line, right? I'd still love to sign a free agent center and free agency in the offseason. I think that would be great. We can spend some cash there. We also have the cap flexibility to do so. Fully financially responsible thing to do. And perhaps this is what GM Ryan Poles is doing. And I mean, I'm just guessing here. I just like the conversation. Maybe what he's trying to do is say, look, I want to delay spending money on the offensive line just one more year. We're not going to contend for a deep playoff run this year. We've got a rookie quarterback. We've got some things working here. Maybe delay one more year to get after this offensive line, use all this draft capital, sink it into that position, maybe then spend some free agent money. I'm just throwing it out here. Look at next year. Sign Jenkins to a team-friendly deal. Simply draft a left tackle and guard in the draft. We have the draft assets to do so. We build this right and financially responsible. And the coaching solution, that will just sort itself out. But as fans, we got to recognize that the sky isn't falling. We're still a franchise on the upswing. We've got top-tier talent at every single position besides all the spots on the offensive line. We need to just chill out a little bit. But I will say, we've got team captains chirping in the media about the coaching, games lost by a head coach that can't handle games, can't close them out. This will all sort itself out, but I've seen this before. I've watched enough football. I've followed the NFL for long enough that typically when you see this from players, calling out coaching staff, calling out each other in the media, this tends to build. It very rarely reverses course. We are probably still we're probably still looking at this coaching staff being fired, but I just want to see it played out. And as far as alternatives, a name that's been bandied about a lot, Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. He will be the top name of the offseason coaching cycle. I mean, just a great play caller, just innovative, just aggressive, points driven league, right? Maybe it's time that we get an offensive minded head coach. Man, and there's also rumors that we were his top choice during the offseason. Maybe we try to do the best that we can, try to keep this team together, try to make ourselves super attractive, try to continue to build. And maybe we're looking at someone like Johnson next year. And I can talk about that later in the week. Granted, poaching Johnson from an NFC North rival, massive win for the Bears. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, we're also looking at the New Orleans Saints firing Dennis Allen. And Eberflus, he now has the second shortest odds of being the league's next coach to get fired. And this is really interesting. It's like Vegas always knows, right? This is absolutely crazy. And what's absolutely more crazy is that you can actually gamble on this. So previous to this game, Eberflus was previously 25-1. And that means he's a long shot to be fired after this nice 3-game streak. Now we've dropped 2 games. Now the odds have changed to 2-1. Yes, you can actually gamble on this. What we're looking at as a team, the trade deadline is done. Let's win this game against New England. We can be 5-4. See what happens to finish out the year. And the players, let's, instead of like demonizing the coaching staff, instead of calling for their heads constantly in the media, how about we focus on the players? I mean, you're a professional. You are playing professional football. Put your head down and work. Quit chirping to the media. Keep things in-house. We get it. We know these things have happened, but my goodness, be professionals. Play your hearts out. Continue to build this franchise and just get to work. That is how I feel. I hope you feel the same way. I'm sure we'll interact in the comments, but yeah, happy election night. Bear down, an uneventful trade deadline day, but I think that's the right thing to do. You guys let me know, and thanks for watching. We'll talk soon.